But now, let's step into another world, a world where none of this exists, a world where no one bows in prayer, where no one sings hymns of hope, where no hands are lifted in worship, a world where morality is not written in scriptures but debated endlessly, where death is not met with the promise of an afterlife, but with the cold certainty of nothing less. Would we be better off? Would we find
Well, I would say that naturally we have an inbuilt sense to discern what is right from what is wrong. But this inbuilt sense that we have is not enough to guide us through life.
I was told of the story of a little boy that once sat on the floor of a mosque in Kano, listening to his grandfather tell stories about the prophets. He wasn't old enough to understand theology, but he could feel something, a sense of belonging, of purpose, of being part of something greater than himself. At the other part of the country, in a small church in Enugu, a woman knelt with tears in her eyes. Life had hit her hard. Business failure, family betrayal, the kind of pain that makes a person feel utterly alone. But in that moment, as the choir sang and hands were placed on her shoulder, she felt something that she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. And somewhere in Lagos, in the home of an old priest, a group of hungry strangers sat around the table, eating a meal that they could not afford. No one asked what religion they belonged to, no one cared. The only thing that mattered was that they were hungry, and feeding them was the right thing to do. These stories are not real. They happen every day in mosques, churches, temples, homes across Nigeria. Religion, of all its alleged imperfections, has given people community, meaning, and love. It has built hospitals, fed the poor, and comforted the grieving. But now, let's step into another world. A world where none of this exists. A world where no one bows in prayer, where no one sings hymns of hope, where no hands are lifted in worship. A world where morality is not written in scriptures but debated endlessly, where death is not met with the promise of an afterlife, but with the cold certainty of nothing less. Would we be better off? Would we finally be free from religious conflict? Or would we do something great, something that has shaped humanity for thousands of years? That is what we are here to explore today. This is not a debate about whether religion is right or wrong. It is an invitation to imagine what would a world without religion look like, and if we could build a perfect society from scratch, what role, if any, would faith play in it? Joining me is Abdullah Ajayi from Federal University of Technology, Minna. And he's actually a very passionate person about topics when it comes to religion, how it affects life, and what world would definitely look like or would not look like if there is or there is no religion. And now we will be breaking the mental chains with one conversation at a time. Abdullah, thanks for joining me on my second episode of my Season 2 podcast. It's nice having you on this show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Khalid. Nice to be here, sir.
So I'm going to ask you the first question. And we've always had people talking about a perfect society, an utopian society, a society that is really, really perfect. But then when you hear about utopian society, what comes to your mind? And do you think that kind of society is possible or is not possible?
Yeah, so when you talk of an utopian society, what comes to my mind is two set of people actually. The first set of people are those who fantasize or imagine a perfect world wherein there is no violence, there is no greed, and there is no sadness. So I would say this set of people mainly have it as a fantasy in their mind. They imagine it, and the way they have tried in the past to establish the society is in such a way that is not just realistic for an utopian society to exist in our current world. Some experiments have been tried in the past and they all ended up in the same result. So the thing is, if this set of people, some, like for example, the Brooks farm, the experiment that they took them, or let's say the Shakers. Some of these things might have lasted for a while, but the thing is, Utopia is meant to be a perfect society. But this set of people were a cult, blinded from the general world, and they are stuck in a bubble. They have no idea of what the outside world looks like. And the truth is that when this test or this experiment, when they are exposed to the outside world, they are going to fall apart almost instantly. The second set of people that comes to my mind are those set of people that think of an ideal world. I don't want to use the word utopia here because this set of people don't really imagine such a world that is too perfect like that, because in the end we are humans. But this set of people are the ones that believe the religion is going to get us to a level of perfection or a certain level of excellence in our day-to-day activities. And this set of people believe that religion is an integral part to reaching an excellent society, or let me call it a religious an utopia that's guided by religion. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. You made mention of the first set of people, that those that don't want sadness, they don't want anxiety, they just want happiness all through. As like those actually the first of people that actually comes to mind when you talk about the utopian society. And that is very, because at some point you're going to see people asking the question that why sadness, why anxiety? Can't you just have a world where everybody will be happy? But then that kind of world is actually not possible, because even within yourself, you are going to make yourself sad, you are going to make it. So all those things are something that are not actually possible. But then at the other side of the spectrum, which has to do with what an ideal society, an utopian society guided by ideals, or an utopian society that arose from the fact that people are guiding or are believing in some ideals, which could be religion or among others. So like that kind of things now. You say like those things are things that at some point in time they've been possible and stuff like that. But then I will ask you a question, and because you mentioned about religion, and now this question is going to come in, is that going to be about religion? You said, my question is, if religion had never existed, do you think people would still have developed a sense of right and wrong? And let's say, and the fact that there is no religion, what are the things that are going to guide us?
Well, I would say that naturally we have an inbuilt sense to discern what is right from what is wrong. But this inbuilt sense that we have is not enough to guide us through life, because there are certain things in life that once we come across the blocks in life, we need guidance from something that's bigger than us, because religious people believe that they were created by God, and God understands them the most. So God is going to give us a manual to live through life, to be able to sort through those challenges or those roadblocks we come across in our daily lives, and able to walk through or pass them. So, but if we don't have a religion to guide us through those things, then what we're going to experience is such a world that everyone is judging based on his own personal experience or the way life have happened to him, and then it's relative to that person. And if you try to apply it to the general society, that it's going to end up falling apart. The rules are not going to work for every single person, but the person that created every single person, the person that has given us a divine religion to follow and guide us through our lives, that in this case, because it is working for everyone, and God knows how the law is going to stay still till throughout time and everything like that. So it's going to put us on a very, very good and correct trajectory. So that's why religion is very important. If we judge based on our intuition alone, it's not enough to guide us through life. So I strongly believe that if there's no religion, we might have the sense to discern what's right and wrong, but it's not enough to guide us through life.
Yeah, but something at some point in time, there's actually something that is going to, like, if there's no religion, there will definitely be a guide. And like you said, everybody have the ability to discern what is right and what is wrong, but then it is not enough to guide us. That is to say, if religion is not guiding us, then our ego, our sense of right and wrong is going to guide us. But then, one thing I actually is to say about people to those that actually attacks religion is that, you see, we human beings, God blessed us, or we are blessed with great minds. Like, we can think, and we can think think things about that is great things that work for the perfect world. And when you look at all those things, everything is logically right, like logically they're right. But then in a situation where we have people that are logically right, for example now, in a room of 10, nothing to guide them. They should just guide themselves. No leader, nothing. And you ask them that, okay, they should just do whatever they want to do, you understand, based on their own sense of being around. You will see people doing different things, infringing on the rights or on the well-being of others, you understand? And they will still justify that logically they are right. And you self will be convinced that what logically they are right. So in a situation like that, all these guys are logical, you understand? They can think, they are smart, but at the same time, they will be living in someone like in a state of anarchy, because nobody wants to be superior to, nobody wants to be inferior to that, you understand? And there's no guide for them. There's nothing that is guiding them. So that's why, as human, I just believe that once if there's no religion, something else is going to get, and that is our ego or our sense of right and wrong, guided by our own perspective, our own historical culture, our own background, and everything like that. And when that thing happens, we definitely have an elite anarchy society. Understand? Because everybody are elite, but then they are elite, but then they are what? They will be anarchy in society. So that's why I just feel like there's actually a need for like, okay, something religion, like, understand, like a religion, a supreme being, understand, to actually give way, or to actually like, okay, this is how we should do things, this is how we should do things, this is how we should do things, understand. So basically that's actually what I think, understand, about okay, what will happen if there's no religion, that is, and how we have developed this sense of right and wrong. And you also said about the fact that man have developed, we have a sense of right and wrong, and which is actually very, very true. So I just want to, like, before I ask this question, I just want to buttress that a little bit. So now, you know, a lot of people will be like, okay, how do we have that sense of right and wrong? The thing is that it is part of human nature, you understand? And it can't be explained through the lens of a normal eye, you understand? Because we didn't know what existed before we like, during the time when our mother's program, we didn't know what happened, you understand? Like, before our existence, we don't know what was happening to us before our existence, you understand? So we cannot really provide an explanation as to, okay, how did we develop, or how did human have this sense of right and wrong? But at the same time, we all have this sense of right and wrong, you understand? And whether we accept or not, there are some things that someone wants to do something. He's an atheist. He's not believing in God, you understand? But then he has this sense of, I don't know what you did there is wrong. You understand? So you understand? So I just feel like, that's actually a proof that what a human, like we human, we have a kind of sense and a kind of understanding what is right and wrong. But then, if the world is, if we are all guided by our individual sense of what is right and what is wrong, they will all be anarchy. You understand? They will be anarchy, because some of those things are actually shaped by our experiences and everything, you understand? That's basically about it. So thank you so much for the reply. So we'll move to the third question. Like, you know, in the past, when you read through histories, when you read through cultures, when you read through civilizations, we've actually seen the situation of how religion can actually bring people together. And at some point in time, we've also seen how religion divides people, you understand? Even divide people from different religion, people from different religion, they actually get divided and, understand, strive and everything. And even within religion itself, you see people that they kind of divide and shit like that. So, but then, do you think the world would have been more peaceful without it? Or let's say that without religion now, is religion just an excuse for us to fight? What do I mean? Now, let's say that the religion doesn't exist. Would there be better peace? Understand? Would there be better peace? Or would we still find new reasons to keep fighting and everything like that? So that's actually the next question. I hope you get that.
Yeah. So we are humans, and we will certainly have this. As long as we have those differences, we will continue to disagree on certain matters. So religion is just there for us for it to teach us how to manage our differences. And one of the bedrocks of a religion that is divine and unadulterated is that it trains its members to instill moral and cultural values that are going to guide the way they interact with others in that society, both humans like them and non-humans like animals and everything. So religion is there to train members on attaining this level of excellence, because it starts from an individual level, and that's what makes the society at large becomes becomes better. So if we get to a state whereby even within the same religion, just like you said, people clash with themselves, those are human differences. But if we don't manage it according to the guidance that the person, the God that has created us, who knows how we would, he knows how our relation plays and everything like that. If we don't guide ourselves with those laws that he has given to us, then it's going to get catastrophic. We won't be able to manage our differences very well, and that's what is going to lead to fight and everything like that. At the same time, it is natural throughout history. Like one party will always, fight another party. That's just the thing. Because the truth is that within this world that we live in, there's always the force of evil and the force for good, and these two forces will keep fighting till the end of time. Like there's no way you want to propagate good without you having to fight evil. It happens, and it has been happening from history, and it will keep happening. There's no time it's going to stop till the end of time. So it's a core aspect of life that we live in. We have to just find the best way, because within ourselves too, we know we are trying to propagate we're trying to propagate something. Clashes are going to occur, but how do we manage it? That's like within people, let's say, of the same religion, but within people of within the force of good and the force of evil. This one is a fight that it just needs to come in, because evil and good will always will keep clashing. So the thing is that the truth is it's in our nature, just like I said. Like it has to happen, and that's how truth can be propagated. Religion is just there to guide us. Yeah, but essentially religion is just there to teach us how to manage those differences.
Okay, so thank you so much. Before I move to the next question, I would like to follow up with what you said and probably probe more into some of what you said. We know there are different religions in the world, you understand, and all of them have their sense of they have a different understanding of right and wrong. For example, the Muslims have a different understanding of right and wrong. The Abrahamic faith have a different understanding of right and wrong. The Buddhism, the Obatala, those they have their own understanding of right and wrong, you understand? So in a lot of situations, you see that my own definition of right and wrong makes me to clash with some other people's definition of right and wrong, you understand? Because of that's what their religion told them, that that is right and that is wrong. You see, at that particular point in time, there will be differences. That's a difference that, in fact, maybe my religion did guide me on how to manage those conflicts, but then at the same time, there are some of those conflicts that are inevitable. So in that situation now, how can religion just be as a kind of framework for people to actually navigate that kind of that? I hope you understand what I mean. How can religion just be a kind of way to navigate okay, their own right and wrong clashes, their own right and wrong and stuff like that, you understand? How can you manage those things, you understand? Those kind of fights in society?
Yeah, so I believe that if you check all divine religion in their own adulterated form, you see that they have messengers. I'm talking about divine religion, because the problem comes when we're talking about religion that's been instituted or created by man like us. So I believe that this is not enough to actually guide a human being through his daily affairs. But if we look at divine religion that in their unadulterated form, one of the core features between all of them is that, first of all, they promote peace. Number two is that God has sent messengers through them to establish social justice. So I believe that those clashes that occur, it is within the proponents of those religion, in one way or the other. Perhaps one party is being aggressive towards the other and then fighting to come up to be able to suppress the other party, or that party is subjugating some set of people and the other party wants to abolish sort of such thing from happening. So I feel like those clashes or conflicts that occur is not based on the core tenets of the divine and unadulterated religion, in quotes. So the problem that comes is that when a certain religion has been adulterated and different ideologies have penetrated to it, then it starts to develop some set of resistance to its initial teachings, and that's why perhaps another religion comes after it and they'll just have to clash because of their ideologies are different. But still, even if we check those religions that have been penetrated to some ideologies that are not in and that does not make the religion in its pure and original form, you'll see that naturally, I personally don't see anything that would make them clash on the basis of they sticking to their religion. It is due to lack of being able to manage our differences that cause about those conflicts. So I feel does not have something to do with the religion itself, but rather due to those that are the proponents of the religion.
Thank you so much. Due to the followers of the religion, that's very important. And then we'll move to the thanks for the clarification there. So I'm going to move to the next question. Without religion, me personally, like a lot of people personally, they see religion as something that gives them a sense of purpose, sense of meaning, sense for hope. You see, there are sometimes that you'll be in your down, like in a down moment, and at some you just remember the Lord and religion and everything, and then you start getting comforted. You start getting comforted. So now, but then let's say that there's no religion now. Where would people turn for things like purpose, meaning, and hope? And what other alternative do you think they might say that they have today, or they say they have today, and the relevance of those alternatives?
Okay, without religion, personally, I believe that people are going to they're going to turn to meaningless things to seek, let's say, hope from, and they're going to turn petty things to their Lord, to their God. If you don't start from, as they say, if you don't start for something, they're going to stand for everything. The problem you see that those that claim they don't believe in God, or those that even claim to the provenance of a certain religion, but then they don't live by those the tenets of that religion. You find out that they end up turning petty things to God. They take people as idols. They worship footballers. They worship celebrities. They don't have a high sense of let's say, they don't have something high that they are looking up to, something bigger than them that they have to just revere and devote their life to. So when you don't have that type of ideology or that type of thinking in your mind, and you believe that you don't need anything like that, then you're going to fall for many things. You start, getting too attached to things like some things. You just find, because the nature of human is that we want something that we can just develop meaning for, or put our our hope and trust in. So if you don't have a God that you are looking up to and you are revering and you are devoting your life to, then many of those things come in. If you look at our world today, one of the things that have taken control of the minds of the youth especially is the media, devices, or celebrities online. So these are the things that they occupy the minds of most of our youth today. And that's why you see many of these discrepancies that is happening in our community. It's because of the fact that we have turned our society to a godless community, and we take petty things for God. And the problem is that when people start doing this type of thing more often, they are going to get scared of a lot of things. The thing is that when you don't even have somebody a God that you look up to and you devote your life to, you start seeking, let's say, safety from some petty things. You have to, some people, they go to the extent of attaching something to their let's say their car, their something, like different behaviors that are just that just comes from not devoting your life to something that's much bigger than you, and that's good. So I feel like if we don't have religion, without religion in our world, people are going to turn to meaningless things, and we try because we are just so complex as humans, and that's why I see these days now people are propagating things that internally in our nature we detest them. You see homosexuality, you see lesbianism. These things are becoming the order of the day because people have turned to different things as their god, and that's when Satan is going to have the opportunity to penetrate our minds and dominate the minds of most people. So religion is very, very core, and without it, people are going to turn to meaningless things.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for the response. Like you said, you mentioned about the fact that if people don't actually turn to religion or turn to God, you understand, they are going to turn to other things, you understand. And we've seen in history, like in history for a very long time, some people like, how people turn like, okay, they feel like, okay, they want to believe in everything. They worship something like stone, they worship like, they take something like stone as their God, they take something like tree, something as fire as their God. But now, though there are people like that that exist, they don't believe in God, I mean, the divine God or in the Abrahamic religion, those people like that, where they take trees. And that's because of some of these natures as God. And that is actually because of the fact that by human nature, we cannot not engage with religion. We cannot not worship something. Understand? And also in our life today, though those things are not really common per se, like the likes of trees, worshiping, like just turn into something to find meaning from. You see people turn into some abstract ideas. Okay, some people take freedom as their turn to freedom, you understand, as something that they can find solace with, you understand. Some people turn to stuff like, okay, some people turn to stuff like their ego, you understand. So like that's it. Some people turn to themselves, you understand. But then one thing we actually need to understand is the fact that when things like that happens, then you begin to see things that actually like you said, you begin to see things actually like against the nature of human itself. You mentioned of homosexuality, you understand, whereby people like, okay, a male and guy can understand stuff like that, along all other things. When you look at those things, it's as a result of the fact that they actually they withdrew themselves from, okay, I don't want to worship and I don't want to engage in religion. But then the other things they worshipped guided them towards whatever thing they are doing. The likes of homosexuality, the likes of anything. You see most people calling for freedom. And why can't I marry? You see people say that it is my wish. That's what you see. At some point, freedom comes into play. You know that, okay, this guy is worshiping freedom. At some point, you see that ego comes into play. I'm free. Like, it is my right. I should do it. You understand? Egos come into play. So, but then the summary of everything is the fact that we are always guided by something. We are always guided by an ideal, and we'll keep on finding purpose, finding things like meaning, purpose, and hope from things if it's not unto God. Sometimes, in most cases, yeah, you see some people that even those animate or those animate things or natures that they turn to didn't actually give them what they want. And you see them like, okay, keep on turning, keep on changing to other things. Or they actually find a true thing, a true being, supreme being they actually like, all right, they actually like give them the purpose they're yearning for, the hope they're yearning for. Thank you so much. So now we've actually talked about how religion, how the world would have been, how we all would have been if there is no religion. Now we are going to like, okay, flip the script this time around. Now, what if religion controlled every aspect of our life? Would that make society more stable, or would it create more problems for the society?
Okay, I believe it's going to be society more stable, because that's the essence of all divine religions, to create social justice, to ensure that the level of poverty is elevated in society, to ensure that there is individual freedom. One can express his opinions through the lawful means. There is freedom of speech, and a lot of, like, there's equality, there's security and safety. Those are the core tenets of a divine religion. Those are the most important things that a divine religion needs to have in place. So if we have religion guiding us through our lives, then I believe that the world will become more stable. If you look at the world today and let's say the world powers today, we see that there are a set of people that they become so secular, they detach religion from their day-to-day affairs. And for somebody, for an inquisitive mind, if you borrow and dive deep into the root causes of these problems, you see that it emanates from the fact that people don't look up to something bigger than them, and they don't let the divine rules that God has sent to guide them through their lives. So the moment you believe that your daily activities should be detached from your worship, then problems start setting in. And that's on a personal level alone. Now look at the global scale, because everything starts from an individual, then it keeps bubbling till it gets to the overall community, then the world at large. So I believe that with religion, the world is going to become more stable. And it's because of the absence or the lack of following those divine rules from God that has made our world the way we see it today. So that's, I believe that if without religion, what's not going to be stable. With religion, what is going to become more stable, and that's when we can get to an utopia in quotes, or an ideal society. So I believe with religion we can get there.
Thank you so much for that. I would like to ask a follow-up question as to that. Now, you said, okay, religion, you believe that religion is going to, like, okay, with religion, the society is going to be more stable. Now, I wanted to give examples of societies or examples, or I want to show how religion has made things stable and how, in a way that the lack of religion has made things unstable. Let me just put it like that.
Yes, so it's a nice question you ask, and it's always the best to study from history and seek lessons therefore. So if you look at history, look at the times when the powers of the world were people who were governed by religion, and those that were ruling the world at the same time were people that are not at some point in time were people that are not governing their life by religion. So for example, look at the times of the Rashidun Caliphate, who were the predecessors, who were the successors of the Prophet, peace be upon him, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So when you look at their life, you see that these people, humans like us, I intentionally do not want to talk about the Prophet because he's a messenger from God. Let's look at people who were his companions and they ruled during that time. So if you look at the level of peace that was let's say was created in Medina and Mecca, for example. Prior to then, before the prophet came to before the prophet was sent with his messengership, before he was given the task of messengership, it was a common thing in the Arabian Peninsula, specifically in Medina, that they always fight and do things like that. So if you look at the reason why they are fighting, or the feud between them came to stop, it's because of the fact that they saw someone, a messenger from God, that was able to come to transform their lives through the divine rules of God. Right? That is why they were able to stop those feuds that has been going for centuries, that has been going for years, and it has been passing on from one generation to the other. The same thing, looking at the Rashidun Caliphate, you see how they were able to govern the life of the people. And the cool thing is that the leader himself does not see himself bigger than the people. He sees himself as a servant to the people, because it is they practice leadership as a servant leadership or something like that. So they bring that self-flow. They ensure that everyone in the community is actually getting what they deserve to get. Everyone in his community is looked after. Look at the life of Umar radiallahu anhu. He was so, concerned about the affairs of his people, to the point that there was a day he was just walking at night. He was looking around, scouting if everyone was in a good condition, and he came across a woman that has not eaten with her children, and he had to just run back home. He believes that if he does not tend to this woman, God is going to question him on the day of judgment. So look at what a religion does and how it transforms a society. Fine, there were some wars that have to go on during the time of Abu Bakr and Umar. These are back to what I said before regarding the force between good and evil. This is just like the scenario there. But if you look at how peaceful the land became before then, prior to when there was no religion, Arabia, Mecca and Medina, them specifically, were a place where the right of women, for example, is nothing to speak home about, to take home about. The right of children is something that's always stunted. The right of the slaves and things like that, they were living below standards of a normal human life. So these are problems that were predominant then, but religion came to make the society stable and make it become better. Then if you look at times where, for example, look at the Abbasid Caliphate, they were able to flourish and develop in science and technology because of religion was strongly integrated in their leadership. Look at the time of Harun al-Rashid. The way he was a person that was guided by the Lord of God, and that made him ensured that science and technology flourished. So this is the time where religion was strongly integrated into the governance of the society. Looking at Harun al-Rashid, he was able to propagate physics, mathematics, getting scholars from various parts of the world to come to Beit al-Hikmah in Baghdad to be able to teach, translate books to Arabic and develop knowledge of science and physics and everything like that. And look at the fruit of that. Look at what they were able to establish. And that was the time we call the Islamic Golden Age, because they were able to make a lot of inventions because of the fact that they believe that they even got facts from their own religion, from the Quran. They got facts that they can derive and apply to their daily life, compare it to their counterpart at the same time. Those set of people were those that the rule of the church was clashing with the discoveries in science and technology. Although this is because of then, like at that point in time, the Bible has been, so to speak, has been adulterated in one way or the other. So those rulings were clashing because this Christianity is a divine religion, but at that point that I'm talking about, it has been adulterated in one way or the other. So they were not able to contain the fact that scientists were coming up with ideas that is clashing against the rule of church. So they have to, assassinate, or they have to kill some of those scientists. And what those scientists started doing is that they started moving to the land of the Muslims, that their life, their governance and everything is being guided by religion. What later had to happen for the people whose rule of church and rule of religion is clashing with their day-to-day lives, that they now had to separate governance from religion because they believe they are not compatible. But in divine and unadulterated, yes.
Okay, sorry for cutting you short there. I want to, like, you made mention of some very important points, but then after showing, I want to, like, what is that thing that religion has that human intellects don't have? You understand? And what is that thing that that actually makes it so different? You understand? You mentioned how civilizations, how they've actually like flourished with religion. You understand? And then probably you've mentioned about some societies where with religion actually like where they are not, following religion actually like it kind of brought them back, you understand. But my question is now that what does religion has that made some societies so stable in such a way that human intellect don't have? Because of that reason they will not be able to make the society so stable.
When it comes to science and technology, I believe that even if you don't, if you claim that you don't want to apply religion to your day-to-day activities, you will still flourish because laws of God is still does not clash with the laws of physics. Even they are not deriving, you are not living by the rule of God, because the law of God does not clash with the rule of the world in general. So you'd flourish in one way or the other. But the problem lies, look at the world we are living today. I think a very nice example of some set of people, the rulers of the world that don't apply religion their activity, are those that are currently living in the world today. Let's say, for example, America, they are living more of like a secular life and stuff like that. So you'd see a lot of problems emanating from their society. Things like lesbianism, those ideas are mostly propagated in the West. And that's the problem that comes from not taking religion as an integral part of governance. So it just brings about, because just like I said before, people try to find meaning in certain things. So if they don't have somebody big that are worshiping, that are devoting their life to, they tend to start worshiping ideas. And just like you see, communism, socialism, like just find something to live for. Because if you don't live for something, you're going to live for everything. If you don't want to die for something, you're going to die for everything. So these are ideas that propagate, that get propagated in a society whereby they detach religion from their governance. So I think that's like a direct contrast compared to the time of the messenger, or time of the Rashidun Caliphate, like Abakri, Umar, Uthman, Ali. Like those are a set of people that they took religion as a core and integral part of their life. Looking at the time of Prophet Isa, that's Jesus, right? Look at how he was able to organize his companions at that time, was able to organize people with him. And this was because religion was an integral part of their lives. So if you look at history, like every single every single point in history where religion was strongly attached to governance, you see that, I mean, the religion in its divine and unadulterated form, you see that it always brings about peace in society, versus when religion is detached from the day-to-day governance. This causes more chaos, and they see ideas that are just mind-boggling, taking stage and things like that. So those are the problems that come from not implementing
Okay,
religion in governance.
thank you so much for that. So you actually mentioned about scientific progress and stuff. So I want to just ask a quick question about that. We talked about religion, the benefits or things that happens when religion shapes, or when religion shapes, or when we accept that religion shapes our laws, our policies, our lives. Now, what do you think that does to our personal freedom, creativity, and scientific progress? I just want to be brief on that.
Okay, so I think a nice example would be the time of Harun al-Rashid. So he was the caliph of his period, and caliph of all the Muslims in the world at that point. And he was governed by religion, just like we know in history. And the thing is that for every religion, just like I mentioned, and I'm not speaking of religion, I'm talking about divine religion. So if you look at those divine religion, one of the core tenets, in fact, those society that claim to chase utopia, and they don't actually take religion as an integral part of their life. They have some they have some building blocks for building an utopian society, and one of those building blocks is individual freedom. So if you look at that, between a community that applies religion to its governance and one that does not, I feel like those that does not apply religion, they normally go over in claiming individual freedom, and it always leads to their downfall at times, because you see that those that are actually looking at the world we are living today, some of them claim free speech and stuff like that. But then if somebody voice out his opinion certain ways that is not is not legal or something, they are going to have to come and checkmate the person in that area. But look at the religion that is a community that's guided by religion. They believe that there has to be individual freedom, but the point is one not fearing to voice out his or her concern through lawful means. So you can't come and start propagating something that's against the tenets of religion in your society, for example, and you believe they are going to be scot-free. But what you see in societies of our time today, in the West, for example, you see that this claim of freedom of speech has led them to a rabbit hole whereby they have to keep looking for a way to subjugate one idea or the other. Because of that, their claim that they have to bring freedom of speech. They are the best example people can learn from when it comes to freedom of speech and all of this stuff. But the truth is that in a religious society, in a religious community, freedom of speech is actually guided through lawful means. While in a non-religious community, they have nothing to guide them towards that freedom of speech, except that when it backfires, they might have to subject that person to trial and stuff like that. So I believe there are actually limits to what you can say freedom of speech is. You can't come and start saying something that's going to harm the society and believe you are going to get scot-free. This also happened. This is also true for communities that don't oppose religion. But then I feel like a community that is guided by religion has a better way to manage what freedom of speech should look like than a non-religious community. So in this way, when it comes to scientific development, for example, you have freedom to actually build anything you like. This is also the same for non-religious community. But then think of a person that you just have ability to express your creativity and your innovation, compared to when everything is being subjugated. Like you can't express yourself. Like anything you want to do, for example, you need to go to certain steps to get let's say some sort of approval to do whatever you want to do, because you fear that perhaps if you propose if you build something like this, you are going to get penalized for it. If that is the order of the day, it's going to make innovation stagnate, and there's not going to be development in the broader sense.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So, like you said, concerning as to how it affects our personal freedom, religion actually gives freedom, but then it limits it within the framework of its tenets, you understand, in such a way that there's no, you are not given any illusion of your freedom. You are made to know where your freedoms end, you understand, as to religion, contrary to other societies that worship other things, or that tries to like, okay, we don't need religion, we need other things, we need something materialistic. Those societies are actually like, okay, yeah, there's freedom of speech and everything, but then through the back door, they try to like impasse on those freedom and among others, like that's on that. Also, you also mentioned about scientific progress to that. Ideally, religion should just actually impasse. In fact, science is part of religion. Like personally, I believe, and it has been seen over time, like historically, that science is part of religion, and there is no how you want to do it in such a way that you see there are some kind of prophecies that, or some kind of discoveries, reference to science, analogy with science, scientific facts that some religious scriptures has actually made to just show that what science is actually part of religion. It shouldn't, and it doesn't limit how we can actually discover our scientific like progress and scientific discovery. So I'm going to move to the next question.
So before we move, I would like to just give an example. Look at the time of the golden ages, for example. You see that those that are flourishing, like the father of robotics, who is known as Ajayi, who is known as father of robotics. You see, if you study Ajayi, you are going to be wowed by the amount of inventions he has been able to do, just because the caliph at that period was in support of developing better scientific ideas to make the community better. So he developed elephant clock, he developed certain systems like mechanical systems that were very valuable to the community. In fact, many of his inventions were some of the things that led to better inventions nowadays. Look at Al-Khwarizmi that developed algorithm. Algorithm is one of the things that we were able to use to manipulate social media and many other things today. So we take it for granted. But look at those that founded it. It's because of their caliph, the ruler of time, was in tandem with whatever will make science better. So that's the person that's governed by religion. You understand that science has been like physics, for example, that we used to discover better things in the world, as is a body of knowledge that has been blessed and that have been blessed with by God. So he understands that it is a core part of religion to make life better for people. So whatever way we can make life better for people, we are going to support it. So if the community is guided by religion, they would tend to invest in those sort of ideas that will make things get better for people. And that's why you see Al-Khwarizmi, you see Ibn Sina, father of optics, you see Al-Khwarizmi, you see Jabir, you see Al-Jazari, and many of them like that. So those are the good side of having religion strongly integrated into the governance of the community.
Okay, so thank you so much. Some people often say that you don't need religion, but you still need spirituality. Do you agree with that statement? What does religion mean? What does society? What does spirituality mean? What's the difference between them? And like, just help us to buttress more of that.
Okay. Do you need religion and stuff like that? Well, I feel there are two types of people that claim that they don't need religion. First, no, there are two types of people that believe, that don't have a religion, but then they try to, because the fact is that we are humans and would want something that we can live. So if you claim that you don't need religion, that's where the problem lies. But so somebody that is still looking for guidance, like, this person should just keep exploring. Like, kudos to them. I feel like if God decrees that they'll find the truth, they'll find the truth. But those that claim that they don't have anything to do with religion, the fact is that if we look internally and deeply into them, we find out that they just want something to connect with deeply, and that's why they start turning to some things like meditation. Meditation is it's one of the things they actually take very, very grand. But there are things that if you connect deeper with God at a certain level, you are doing something far better than meditation. I'm not saying meditation is bad, like it's a nice way to discover yourself and stuff like that. But then you see that these people they are missing a whole lot. from life, because they could have been guided by certain ideals that is going to lead them to better fulfillment and self-discovery than just trying to figure out things on their own. Like, God has created you and He understands you better than you understand yourself. So the best way is to follow those guidelines that He has given you to elevate yourself to such a level of excellence that you can find fulfillment and meaning in life, than you try to just figure out things from scratch. Like, life is too short for you to be able to figure out those things out. So it's very good and better when you just stick to the set of rules that God has given you and find meaning from it. So if you claim you don't need religion, it's going to be catastrophic at the end of the day.
Okay, there are some people that they don't just claim that they don't need religion. You understand? They also say that, okay, yes, we don't need religion, but we need spirituality. Now, what is the relationship between religion and spirituality? What's the difference between both of them? And you understand, just help us to explore that place more, please.
So religion, it's a way of life. Like, religion is something that should guide the way you live life generally. And that's why, for example, look at Islam. Islam is a very comprehensive religion that does not, it looks into all aspects of life of its proponent, ranging from politics to economics to learning to, in fact, physics. Like, check the Quran, for example. If you study the Quran, you see that it touches on all aspects of life for a Muslim. So I may not be able to talk about other religion because I'm a Muslim, so I understand better what my religion says about life. But if you look at those people that are claiming that they don't need religion but they need spirituality, truth is that it is in human nature. We need something deep to connect to. So if you claim that you don't need religion, then you just have to find a way to satisfy that your craving in your mind to get attached to something and find meaning, find something deep. Some of us now, some of those guys that claim that they don't need religion, one of those things, just like I mentioned, they tend to some practices that it's just petty. Like, I believe that religion is a way of life, and spirituality, it's a way to discover yourself at a deeper level. I'll just say that way. So, and spirituality is something that's tightly integrated into religion. You need to connect with God at a deeper level. And I feel the best way to discover yourself is to connect yourself to God at a deeper level. And God will make you find out, figure out life better for yourself and be able to translate that into the activities. But religion encompasses all aspects of life. Like, everything is strongly integrated. Your interaction with people is part of religion. But then spirituality, for those that claim they don't need religion, they can only connect to themselves at a personal level. But the way you connect to yourself with your own ideas is surely going to be different from how another person is going to connect his own self. That is not actually practicing any religion. And then when it comes to interacting with yourself now, if you don't have a common, let's say, ground to think through. You don't have something in common that can make you just flow along together. You don't have some set of guidelines that two of you live up to. You're just concerned about finding a deeper meaning within your own self. So I think that's the difference between those that take religion serious and those that believe they don't need religion. And because of the nature of human in them, they try to find some things and they claim spirituality is the way to go forward. So spirituality is tightly ingrained into religion, but then how do you want to relate to those beside around you? That's where religion comes in, and that's why I feel religion is important.
So thank you so much. Though somehow I actually understand what you said, but then one thing I actually see this thing differently. You understand, in the sense that when you look at, I feel like those that actually don't need religion, like you said, they just find something to use to hide their crave for sense of purpose, their crave for like sense of hope, like hope for sense of meaning with spirituality. But then in any way, there is no like spirituality is deeply connected with religion. Like when you talk of religion, a way of life, that means you have a sense of, when you talk of spirituality, you have a sense of meaning, you have a sense of purpose. That is what religion gives. Understand? So I just feel like both of them are not actually, they are not too separate or distinct things. They are actually interrelated. In fact, maybe I will actually say that spirituality is part of religion. Like, I would definitely say something like that, understand? So we'll move to the last question for today, and that has to do with, if you could design or redesign the ideal society, what role, if any, would religion play in it? Would you keep it? Would you change it? Or would you remove it completely?
Yeah, so that's a big question. And so, definitely, I'd keep it 100%. And talking about building a a uh, a perfect or ideal society, I'd say that, well, just like I mentioned before, there are certain building blocks that an ideal society have to have. Has to have. One is social justice. Another one is equality in the eyes of the law, whereby there's nothing like there's no small, there's no elite, there's no peasant, there's no king. Security and safety is one of the core tenets of. Is one of the core building blocks of an ideal society. Individual freedom is also one of the important building blocks. Freedom of speech, elimination of poverty and corruption. Those are the things I feel like are basics of an ideal society. But then the features or building block that a secular state might have, and these are features that a secular state might have and agree to make part of building an ideal society. But the difference between those secular state and a religious state is that a religious state goes a step further. It trains its members to develop moral and cultural values that is going to guide the way they interact with their fellow beings. They don't just stop at having those building blocks. Those things are important. They are the bedrocks. But a religion goes a step further, and that is why you see that you see the vibe of compassion and mercy among its members. A society within which there's a culture of sacrifice, there's a culture of mercy, there's a culture of compassion, there's a culture of benevolence, there's a culture of cooperation. A society without animosity, without hostility, without envy and corruption. This is what a religion does for a society. This is where you see a leader that's coming down to the level of the subject. He believes, he does not have it in mind that he's better than them. He just feel like he's ruling above them. That's what religion does for a society. And until we add more values and cultural values to a society, to the building blocks of building this society, we have not reached that excellence. We don't have that perfect community. So we have to make moral values and culture strongly integrated into building an ideal society. Until then, we can claim that yes, we have an ideal society. So definitely, if I have the opportunity, so I would ensure that society I'm going to building has religion as its base. So those, for example, now in a religious community, those people in power, just like I mentioned, they become humble and conscious of God. So he consults his subject in important matters. He is kind to them. Because he understands that it's surely going to account for everything that's doing. So such a leader is going to be directed or going to be motivated by higher forces than someone that's just trying to make the society an ideal or utopian society. I feel like religion is a very, very, very core aspect of life, because the purpose of creation is for us to reach a certain level of excellence through God. The purpose of God creating us is for us to reach a certain level of excellence through servitude and devotion to Him. So if we don't take that as a core and integral part of our life, then we can actually get to that excellence. How do we want to get to a level of excellence, abandoning the rules and guidelines that God has given us? So I feel like any society, if I had the opportunity to build a society or community, I'd ensure that religion is an integral part, because that's the only way I feel we can get to an utopian society. So those that claim that they want an utopian society, a world free from violence, from sadness and grief and stuff like that, but abandoning religion, I feel it's not actually realistic. I believe it's not realistic for them to create an utopian society, and that's why I try to dissect those sort of people that claim they want an utopian society in the beginning. The first are those I believe that can, and the second set of people who take religion as a core aspect of their life are those I believe can actually get somewhere. But unfortunately, that the world we live in today, it's even those that claim to have religion strongly inbuilt in their society, they don't actually live by the tenets of their religion, and that's why you see many of these problems coming up. And you even see some of those secular states are doing better than those that claim they are clinging to religion. So that's the current state we find ourselves, and the problem lies in the proponents of that religion, not the religion itself. We have to fix our level of devotion to God, and I think things are going to get far better that way. So, and everyone that opposes religion and lives by its tenets can agree to this.
Thank you so much. This brings us to the end of this episode. We started this conversation with a basic yet unsettling question. What would the world look like without religion? And as we explored, the answers are so complex, so technical, but then they are so easy to understand. They are so easy for us to internalize. Religion has been both a source of division, religion has been a source of unity, a force for unity, and at the same time, to some extent, this unity is something that has been caused by some of the proponents or some of the followers of certain religion due to their inability to manage some of this conflict. Religion has built civilizations and it has actually torn civilization apart, yes. How? Because, there are some times that when you see the problem is not the religion. You see a lot of societies that flourish to religion. This is because of the fact that they adhere strictly to religion. And you see those that religion turn apart. This is because of what? The basic foundation of their society, which is that religion, or the basic foundation, or the basic foundation of yourself, which is that religion, they actually withdraw from it. And when you withdraw from your foundation, what happens? Everything collapses. Religion has given people purpose, and at times, some people has actually used religion to justify cruelty. When you read through history, you see how some people actually use religion. But then one thing I just like to say about religion is that, like some our guests have said before, is that religion is not without justice. That is, when you talk of justice, when you talk of religion, you're talking of justice. So those that actually use religion to justify cruelty are actually out of it. You understand? Like it is said the other time, the problem is actually the followers of that particular faith. But one thing that's remained clear is that religion is more than just a belief system. It's a part of human experience. It provides structures, it provides morality, it provides a sense of belonging that science and philosophy alone, or human intellect alone, have yet to fully replace. And some religion is beyond all these. Would the world be more peaceful without religion? Maybe or maybe not. Would the world be emptier? Almost certainly. Because at the core of faith, beyond rituals, beyond doctrines, is something human, a yearning for meaning, a search for connection, a desire to believe in something that is far, far, far greater than ourselves. And whether you see that greater thing as God, as faith, as shared human spirit, it is undeniable that religion has played an irreplaceable role in shaping who we are, directly or indirectly. And as we wrap up this discussion, I will leave you with the following question. If you could build a perfect society, would you include religion? Imagine your downtimes when you felt so empty. How did religion rescue you from that menace? Or what other thing rescued you and how? And then finally, if you were to remove religion from this world, do you think there's any other thing that can fill its void? This conversation doesn't end here. It actually continues with me, it continues with you, it continues with us. Let's keep questioning, let's keep imagining, and as always, let's keep breaking the mental chains with one conversation at a time. Thank you.